Welcome back. Now, we've talked a lot on this programme during the last year about the return to the office and the rise of hybrid working. Central to that is the commute. Long commuting distances are a key reason why a lot of workers do not see returning to the workplace as a good use of their time, while fears over infection during the pandemic saw many return to driving as a way of reaching the office or factory instead of public transport, shared mobility services or carpooling. Well, Wayleadr, a leader in so-called arrival technology, has made a study of the subject, and it has advice for companies on how to respond. Joining me now from San Francisco is Garret. He's founder and chief executive of Wayleadr. Garret, welcome to you. Thanks for joining me at such an unsociable hour. You are seeing a rise in office occupancy around the world, aren't you?
That's right. We're seeing a 5% increase last year has now dramatically changed. We're seeing a fairly rapid increase in return to office as of the start of this year.
And what are you seeing in terms of average commuting times right now?
Well, Ian, it's a great point to focus on, is in that you can actually see 10% of people's time is spent commuting to the office on a daily basis. So it's really important that we can embrace and use software to, if in any way possible, save that time for people so they can use that to be more productive in their day.
But have you found that driving to the office or the factory is on the increase compared with pre-pandemic times?
We're seeing it's fluctuating per day. I think, now post-COVID, there's a more flexible policy being brought in by most companies. We're seeing Wednesday, for example, being the busiest day by far. And then we're seeing, obviously, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, a massive increase and surges from certain times within the day. And it's really interesting to see the insights from this with their software, where you see, for example, some companies have 100% occupancy at 12 o'clock noon, and then it might be down to as low as 40% by 2 o'clock. So, and then of course, lower occupancy then on Mondays and Fridays, which is being seen across the world.
Absolutely extraordinary. How are employers dealing in particular with this move back towards driving?
I think what you're seeing is that about 38% we're seeing right now of people are still using their static and allocated spaces, for example, in parking. And a massive increase now of 68% are going towards flexible hybrid models. And so, we've seen data from our report over 100,000 employees in our network, and we've seen this has massively shifted towards the flexible models where we're seeing today. And we expect this to increase in moving into the future, getting closer to that 100%, I believe.
One thing that you did pick up on, though, is that a lot of employers, there aren't really any spaces for electric vehicles in workplaces. I think only 1% of the total. Right,
exactly. And I think, we're in for a bit of a wake-up call when we had 10% of new cars purchased last year being EV, and only 1% of those spaces being ready for EV. And so what becomes really important is how we rotate the use of space and those EV chargers. And so to get the maximum usage out of those chargers is going to be so important as the world embraces the EV dynamic moving forward.
Is there much of a difference between what you're seeing in the United States and here in Europe? Obviously, we have smaller cities over here by and large in Europe. It's harder to drive to work if you live in a city compared with those big US conurbations.
Yeah, the US is an interesting market for us in that you have some states like LA, for example, California, for example, where, you'll see commuters spending over 80 hours of their year looking for a space alone, looking for a parking space. And then, across Europe, we have...
Sorry, Garret, 80 hours a year?
Yeah, just looking for a parking space. So it's really incredible across the US, where car ownership is in states where car ownership is extremely high. Then in Europe, I think we're seeing the data in some countries. We have probably stronger public transport services, and so therefore we're seeing less time spent searching for spaces and more use of public transport. And so it's lower in Europe compared to the US.
All right, Garret, we've got to leave it there. Good to talk to you this morning. Thanks again, as I say, for joining me so early in the day, your time. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Speak soon.